Welcome to the Sober Unicorn. We are a gay-hosted, all-inclusive podcast about sobriety and addiction recovery for the LGBT plus community and all of our allies. I am your host, Holden, and thank you for joining us today. Hey, it's Holden, and I am an alcoholic. Today, I'm being joined by Brett.
Hi, Holden.
Hey,
Thank you.
Brett, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. I know we connected via Instagram in an odd way, but I mean, we did connect, and I'm so happy that you have decided to come on and share your journey of sobriety. So, why don't you tell everybody, like, of course, your name, age, how long you've been sober, and what your drug of choice was?
Sure. Well, my name is Brett Quigley. I'm 31 years old. Originally from New York. I live in LA now. And I'm 5 years sober. And my drug of choice was um, primarily alcohol, but also cocaine for sure.
I know, yeah, cocaine. I know a lot of seems like a lot of younger generations are very cross addicted.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we were major party animals. So, why don't you take everybody through what led up to that final decision of like, I have to get sober? And how was your journey kind of in early sobriety?
Yeah. Well, it's something, I mean, now when we look back, and I'm sure you can kind of reflect on this as well, we kind of like look and we're like, oh my God, like that was an issue. That was an issue. We kind of go through like the stream of our life and like see where it all started. And for me, right away, I would say like I started drinking in high school, and I was pretty shy, and I would say innocent, very like innocent kid. But when I started drinking, it was like already, I was like getting wasted. And that just kind of progressed heavily into my late teen and definitely early 20s. Early 20s, it was like I was experiencing like episodes every other week or every weekend. Um, and that could be, from like hospitalizations to losing my phone, my wallet, having issues, or like getting into fights, which is so not me, like sober. Um, and ultimately the last time I had gone through like a string of rehab and a sober house, etc., and a relapse. And it was like the sixth time I was in the hospital. I woke up in the West Village in New York City from a night that I just like didn't remember. I had tubes on my arm, and this was the second time I was hospitalized in that time frame, in like a month. And my drinking had gotten to the point where I was waking up in the morning and drinking, which I never thought it would. And I ripped the tubes off of my arm. I like looked around, and it was weird. It was like no one was in the hospital. It was like very early in the morning. And I literally said to myself in my head, I was like, what do I want in my life? I'm like, what do I want in life, and how am I going to get it? And this issue that um, I'd been struggling with for years, um, was the thing that was getting in the way of me getting what I want in life, which um, ultimately is like what everyone wants, like a family and success, and in whatever way that is success, in just being happy, like, um, and that is kind of what was like the switch.
Yeah, so I mean, it's crazy to hear that in high school that you were kind of a shy person because if anybody goes and looks at your social media, like it seems like you're this very adventurous, spontaneous, just incredibly big extrovert.
Yeah, I don't know why. I guess like, I guess in social media, right? Like you document moments of like you going out or doing stuff, but truly like I'm pretty chill as a person. Like I'm pretty much very like a homebody, but I do enjoy like some of the superficial elements of social media. I think it's all fun. Um,
Yeah, so when, like you said, you went to rehab, um, was this rehab? Was this the only rehab you went to?
yeah, I only went once to
Was
rehab.
it by choice or were you forced to go?
My parents had tried to get me to go to rehab since I was like 18 years old. And um, I'm gonna be really honest on this because I feel like I said, it's like very much my people. So I feel like people come from a place of understanding when they're listening to your podcast. But um, I just had a string of really bad incidences, including like um, like a stint in a mental health facility, and um, even after that situation, it just didn't change. I like thought it would change, and it didn't. Like it would always go back to the addiction, and as I'm sure you know, or anyone who struggles with addiction would know, that it's something that you kind of have to like get hit in the head with a million times. And finally, I woke up, and um, when I went to rehab, this I was 24 years old, so this was before I got sober the second time. And I woke up, and it was like next, like like rolled up money and empty beer cans in this like random apartment, and I was like, this is so sleazy. That's truly what I thought.
I mean, we kind of find ourselves in like in the string of addiction in the worst of situations, waking up with random people next to us and in random places, and we're like, how the hell did we get here?
Exactly. It's just, yeah, it just puts you in, or you put yourself in situations that you generally wouldn't. So um yeah, I texted my parents. I was like, all right, I think it's time um to
Time
go.
to go. Yeah. So of
Mhm.
course, like you say, you went to rehab. I'm assuming after you got out is when you entered into sober living.
Yeah.
Um, so what made you relapse after that? After, of course, being sober in rehab and in sober living.
um yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I sent that text message to my parents and I said I'm ready to go to rehab, I looked at it. My life had become so chaotic, and I had gone through a really bad breakup, and I had that whole, you know, incident in the hospital. So I sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I I guess I didn't really believe I was going to stay sober that time. I didn't. I knew for sure, even going into rehab, but I looked at it as like, okay, I could take a vacation from my life. And, like you think of rehab, at least I thought of rehab, and it was like pampered, like I was like, I thought I was going to like come out with like a best friend like Lindsay Lohan, and like, like we'd find the love of our lives together and just chill. And it wasn't like that. It was like a boot camp. So
I mean, did you find love within rehab? Because it seems like many people that step into rehab in recovery, they kind of latch onto that first person they find any connection with that's also in sobriety. So did you find that romance?
no, they most of them were like straight guys. My parents had found like this rehab. Um, it's called Ambrosia, and it's in Port St. Lucie, Florida. And I flew there, and it was all like very um, like street, like most of them were heroin addicts, and they were all like into rap music and all this stuff that I had. I just was like, I was like, what the fuck? Like, where did I?
It's like you kind of got pushed into this stereotypical toxic masculinity type rehab,
Oh, oh, totally.
which
Yeah,
is probably a good thing. I mean, but I mean, it seems like, as you said, you kind of went into rehab knowing that you weren't ready.
yeah, yeah,
So getting out
absolutely.
of rehab, sober living, relapse, through your relapse, like, I guess you finally started kind of thinking back at all those times and you finally said, I'm done. And you
Mm.
kind of realized to yourself that you had to stop. So take us through the first recovery. I mean, did you seek out a 12 step? Did you lean on friends? I mean, how did you get through your first recovery again?
Like the second, kind of the time that actually stuck,
Yeah, the
or
5 year time.
okay. So that time, it was a completely different scenario. Like, I knew that I had to get sober. I knew that, like, in order to get what I wanted out of life, I needed to be sober. So my whole mindset was completely different than it was the first time. And my friends and family have all had tried to kind of like get me to get sober, prior to this. So they were all very supportive, and um, just it was something in my head that like was just different. And it was like I was very willing to fight for um, sobriety. I was very willing to fight for it and whatever that took. So um, I spent a lot of time, like completely deterring myself from, my general patterns of like going out and partying and like going out to like clubs and stuff. It just wasn't my thing. Like, so I stayed in my room and I was like, would like force myself to stay in my room. And I don't know if you felt this when you first got sober, but you have that like feeling and it's almost that hunger for like for alcohol or drugs. And it's like you feel it and it's just hard to like shake. So like you have to like remove yourself. And that's what I had to do.
That was me yesterday.
Oh my
I like I'll be honest with everybody. I mean,
yeah.
like I have the podcast and I mean the struggle doesn't end. I mean
Oh
it gets easier over time, but like I'm
yeah.
a little past 3 months. I took a final or midterm last night, failed it. Only by like two questions, so not bad. But that immediately, the moment that would happen for me is when I'd drive straight to the bar down the street, start getting fucked up. And so I live in a house that there is ample amount of liquor.
Hmm.
And so I started having to call my sponsor. I had to call another fellow alcoholic and I was like, hey, like I want to drink. And I
Yeah.
had to take myself out of the house. I was on the back porch, but still. I was in there freezing cold for like an hour, just like shaking my legs. And then through conversating, um, like the leg shaking finally stopped, the urge finally calmed down. But
Mm.
there are instances in our lives, even still to this day, even with you with being 5 years, there's probably things that you come across that re-trigger
Oh
that
yeah.
craving.
Yeah, absolutely. I think now for me, like what I deal with is, but I know exactly what you're talking about. That feeling that you felt yesterday is something that anyone who's in our situation feels. And now for me, the only thing I would say that at this moment I deal with is anxiety. And it's the the beautiful thing in my head sometimes of taking a drink and that anxiety going away so quickly. I can't do that. And that's hard.
So
But
what do you do? I mean, like, because there are a lot of people that listen that probably have anxiety. So as
mhm.
somebody 5 years in, still with that struggle, how do you cope?
Yeah, I think I now have channeled it into fitness and um, creativity, um, and those have been become outlets um, for me, and also people around me. So the people around me who are supportive, or like they say, like move a muscle, change a thought.
Yes. Yeah, and I
Okay.
mean, it's super important to change the places. I mean, when we drink, we create this habit of get off of work or around 3 p.m. is when we're texting the people to meet us at the bar. We're already kind of scheduling our night out of drinking. So, as you said, when you finally got sober this time for 5 years, you have to remove yourself. You have to change those habits of the places that you're going to, the people that you're around, or it's that constant reminder of your drinking.
Yeah, it's it's definitely like a big part of of it.
So
Absolutely.
who did you lean or who do you and did you lean to the most? I mean, did you lean on a higher power, friends, a 12-step group?
Um, I think for both cases, all of the above, like definitely, um, my friends were a big part of it both times. My family was a huge part of both times as well. And the 12-step program, we would go to AA meetings in rehab. So I was very like well versed in those. And also higher power. I think I've always been spiritual. So it's definitely been a part of kind of like my journey as well. So
Yeah, I mean, same here. Spirituality is a huge thing. And so I mean, as somebody, I mean, most of the guests that I've had on don't lean on that higher power. So as somebody that does, how do you, as a gay person
mm,
that has probably had built up prejudice of religion, God, and so on, find comfortability in leaning into your higher power and actually kind of developing that relationship?
yeah, I love that. kind of way you put it. I think it's uh it's like very beautifully put. I guess, yeah, I think when I was younger, I was always really into the idea of something bigger than me and like a higher power. And I grew up Catholic. So, yeah, I mean, being gay, it's like difficult because, like, I mean, this is a whole other story. But you pretty much are like told either you have to conform to something like based on things that, I'm big on science, I'm big on psychology. I'm just going to be honest about like what I believe in and whatever. So I guess there was a moment in my life, probably 19, 20 years old. I was kind of looking for something, and especially because the right had made, you know, Christianity so negative towards gay people, it completely turned me off, obviously. So I had gone to classes for like Buddhism, and Kabbalah is something that I like read books on and attended classes about. And there was some beauty in all of that, I thought, so I had a kind of, I took some beauty from all of these things that I'd learned. But at the end of the day, like really believe I believe in science. So I believe in evolution. And I believe that we know that we were born gay, and it's a variation of like sexual orientation is like a variation of humanity. It's just like some people are gay, some people aren't. So to me, it's like bizarre to think someone's going to hell for that. So I certainly don't subscribe to organized religion at all. I think it's just not for me.
Same here. I mean, hashtag Lady Gaga, born this way. Um,
Yeah.
thanks, girl, for those quotes. But it's the thing is, what I do enjoy, because I mean, I had massive prejudice. I mean, I was a part of the
Mhm.
church young, but what I do enjoy, especially what the 12-step program has taught me, is it's okay to have a spiritual connection. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be with God, it doesn't have to be with Buddha. You get to create what you want. I mean, it's just like we both said, it's we had to believe that there was something bigger than what we were as people. And
Mhm.
even though our egos as gay people is always huge, um, we have to set that aside and know that there's something bigger than what we are. And that's really helped me because I know whether it's like for me, it's more the universe. It's more of
Yeah,
just kind of the flow of the universe and the law of attraction.
totally.
Um, it may develop into a being rather than the whole universe itself. But it's so important for me to be able to have something to lean on when I am going through those hard times.
Yeah, I I completely agree. That's exactly kind of what I believe in too. And I agree with you that it's important to kind of have something, and um, have something that you kind of like look up to or believe in, or um, and yeah, it doesn't have to be so. I think like we have been conditioned in our world, everything is this or that or this or that, and like it's just all bullshit. Like there are different denominations of Christianity, for instance, that believe different things. There are different there are different variations of every religion. um, so who's to say that we can't believe that there's just something that we don't know what it is, it's out there, and we could put our trust in that and live our lives and be good people. I don't see how that's invalid. I think it's great, and if it helps us, that's awesome.
Yes, I think that's the biggest thing is just helping. I mean, getting help.
Yeah.
I mean, whether people want to believe that it's helping us or not, I mean, for me, it kind of has to be. For as somebody, as you said, that was waking up and drinking to being
Mm,
hospitalized, tubes in your arms, to be 5 years sober, healthy, happy. If you end up following his social media, you'll see that he does dedicate a lot of time in the gym.
yeah.
And you seem to be somebody that has found a lot of joy and happiness in sobriety.
Yeah, definitely. um, it's allowed me to um, live my life on my terms, and uh, honestly, a lot of it has allowed me to kind of just be like, I'm going to do what I want in life, and it has given me the freedom to be able to do that. So
Yeah, not be scheduling our time around liquor or the parties. And it gives us a sense of clarity when we have goals. We can imagine, we can actually like fight to maintain those goals and actually achieve them rather than pushing them to the side or procrastinating with them because we have to have that next drink or that next blow or the next whatever it is, whatever that substance is.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, we kind of get to make our own like decisions on like what we do, and you know, for me, it's like I was a completely different person when I would drink. So it's
Yes. What did you have an alter ego name?
I didn't have a name. I wonder if I asked my friends what they would say. Um, but I was just a disaster. I truly was.
I mean,
I was a mess.
I always say like I was a hot mess, but I mean, I focused on the positive, so I just took the word hot and that's what I said. I was like, screw the mess aspect of it all. But yeah, I mean, we were a mess, and at least now when we go out to dinner with friends, I mean, and go to parties even because we don't. I mean, we don't shy away from events. At
Mm,
least when you're long term, I think in your early days, it is important to pull yourself away, create new habits. But once you're sober for a long time, how do you? Because I mean, you're in LA, which is a
yeah,
mecca of gay,
yeah,
and WeHo for Halloween, um, kind of any party really. West Hollywood is cray cray over there.
yeah.
So how do you go into these events knowing that you're going to walk out sober?
Well, I'm very like if I do anything, like I'm very clear with anyone who I talk with that I'm sober. And part of that is because I'm holding myself accountable, whether that's subconscious or not. I'm telling people I'm sober just because I hope that then they would kind of like understand where I'm coming from. Um, but I don't honestly go out to parties that much, but I do obviously sometimes because they're fun, you know. I just don't stay that long. So like I'll stay like an hour and a half and go and have fun and talk to people, and then I'm kind of over it, or it's just not my thing. Like I don't do it till like 4 a.m. anymore.
Yeah, oh God, I don't know what we thought because I mean, now me being sober, it's like 9:30 p.m. and I was like, girl, I'm ready for bed. It's like, how the hell was I drunk as hell, staying awake till 4 to 7 in the morning,
God.
going to work the next day?
It's like I can't even. I don't understand how we did that.
I mean,
It's
that's probably what you used the cocaine for, was to sober up a bit.
oh yeah, for sure.
But it's insane on how when we go to parties now, I went to a friend's birthday recently and I had a reason to be there. I don't really go to bars unless I have a specific reason.
Mm,
So I had a friend's birthday. I walk in, everything was fine. The birthday kind of started dying down, and then that's when the party festivities started. Not party as in drugs, but party as in just alcohol.
yeah,
And that's when I kind of like looked around and I was like, all right, bitch, it's time to go. Like
yeah,
it's a weird thing that when you're sober, these places, when drunk, you thought were home, you called it home, home away from home. You that was your chill spot, whatever you want to call it. When you become sober and just kind of a new person, you look at this and you're just like, I you're kind of in shock. You're just like, this is not my place, this ain't my people anymore, nothing.
yeah, yeah. It's a completely different mindset, and it it takes a while sometimes to get there, but it's insane looking back and like see like I think about uh some of the things that like I or settings I was surrounded by, and I'm just like so bizarre. I would never do that now, you know.
So I know that we kind of a lot of us tend to create new hobbies. I mean, we have all this newfound time. Some of us create hobbies, other people create businesses. And I know that you in your sobriety have found inspiration in creating your own business.
Yes. Yeah, I started Sparrow Blue, which is a clothing brand. Um just something I had wanted to do as a teenager, like a or maybe I was like 11 or 12 when I like started the idea of it. And in sobriety, it was like I'm gonna make sure I do what I wanted to do as a kid. I want to make sure I want to do as an adult. Like I'm very big now on doing what I want to do. So Sparrow Blue has just become kind of like a passion business and something that I've been able to like be creative with, which has been such a blessing for me. So
And how long have you done Sparrow Blue?
I've done it for 1 year. Um, so it is still relatively new, but um, I've kind of been really like lucky that it's gone so well so far. So
I mean, as I
yeah,
told you before we started recording, I was just on Instagram, of course, scrolling for hours like we usually do,
yeah,
and I had seen a celebrity wearing your stuff. I'm not going to name them just in case they don't want themselves name dropped,
yeah,
but it's it's incredible to see something that you found in sobriety, something that you actually now have the time for, energy for, and now money because you're probably saving a shit ton of money not spending it on
mhm,
alcohol and blow. So
yeah,
come to fruition to the point where people that are in the limelight are wearing your clothing and wearing it the hell out because it was in several of their videos.
yeah. It's like it's so cool. It's like very very cool, and um, I feel very grateful because it's very cool to like think of something and then draw it or whatever, and then have it made, and then see someone with notoriety wearing it is really cool. And yeah, I feel very very lucky for that.
That's awesome. I don't even know how it would be. I know that I worked for FedEx and a small business came in and they were shipping stuff to oh my god, Kat Von D, the tattoo artist.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I cannot imagine being a small business owner or business owner in general, seeing that name come across your website of like this order was placed.
yeah. It's it's really cool, and it's funny. It's actually, this might be super stupid to some people, but if you like the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, maybe like someone would appreciate this. But years ago, I had put, um, I'm just gonna say Brandy Glanville on my dream board. I just always liked her, and she's a book that I took in rehab, and through this, I was able to meet her and talk to
But that's awesome. I mean, is there anything kind of we haven't touched on that you want to share with everybody here?
her. Yeah, I guess just when we kind of talk about uh, sobriety, and if I were to give anyone like I guess advice, and I'm sure you also could give someone advice on this, but I think it's just extremely important to like be strong and think about the things you want in life and make sure that um and that could be anything. It could be, I don't know, visiting a certain state or city or whatever. Just like think about those things and think about what um will get you there. And generally the answer won't be any type of substance. So,
That is true. I mean, substances will get us nowhere except for in weird apartments, waking up next to weird people.
oh
Um,
yeah.
so, as of course somebody within the community, what would you tell the gay person or the person part of the LGBT community that is still struggling?
Yeah, I think we're kind of like in a very niche area. Like your podcast in general speaks to a very niche audience. And we deal with certain experiences, both being gay and also having addiction issues that, are very like, they're very niche. So we deal with kind of two layers of different things that we go through. Um, and I very often think about like the kid that I used to be and what would have made his life better or easier. And I think I don't know if I have the answer to that. I think I think it's important to um, focus on the positive and the love in the world and the love around you, and try to dim the negative out. And um, I think you could do that just by being yourself and doing what you want to do in life, and look, I mean, we have the freedom to do that. Like we have the freedom to be who we are. And if there's a kid struggling, I think they to hold on and like be strong. They'll
Yeah,
be
I
good.
mean, what I got from that essentially is like when we look back at our past selves, it's always that question of what would you tell your past self that
Yeah.
could benefit your future self? Is again in our string of addiction, would we tell our past self, bitch, don't pick up the bottle, don't do that line of cocaine? Because we know in our addiction that what we were doing was wrong, but we just couldn't
Mm.
stop. And so it's so important to think about that kid that
Yeah.
you were when you were 10 years old and innocent and coming to terms with your sexuality. It's like, what would you tell them to avoid? What would you tell them to make sure that they're happy in their young adulthood and in their life as a gay person or just a person in general?
Yeah.
And I think we would tell them avoid the addiction, avoid the bottle, avoid these places and people. So I think that's so important. It's like, would you be proud? Would your young 10-year-old self be proud of who he was about to be years later in the
Mm.
suffering of addiction?
Yeah, that's, I think, very well put. Um, Completely. I
Thank
agree.
you.
Yeah,
So, thank you so much for joining us today.
of course. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course, now this time is to plug things in. So, if anybody wants to reach out, where can they find you?
Sure. My personal Instagram is Brett Quigley. My business Instagram is Sparrow Blue Clothing, and my website is sparrowblueclothing.com.
Thank you again for listening to today's episode. Hit that follow button to be notified about new episodes every week. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Instagram at The Sober Unicorn Podcast or on our website at thesoberunicornpodcast.com. There you will find our episodes as well as our very own sober-owned shop featuring products from small businesses that are sober-owned. And remember everyone, don't be normal, be a unicorn, but better yet, be a sober unicorn.